Welcome back, my darlings. We shall see if I have talked myself out about my plants yet or not. I refilled your water dish, you know. You don't have to go outside to drink out of the outside water dish. There's water in here. Ah, that's what I've done. Okay. If you ever wondered how to do it, flip it over so that it's not the sharp end. Just get underneath the threads of the stitch and gently pull them out. You do not need to use scissors to cut it out because then you're going to have a whole bunch of frayed little mess. Do it in the order in which you did and it should not catch on itself. This one is not supposed to be this far over. There we go. Now I can rethread from here. There we go. I will tighten the direction opposite to which it came in. And then I can simply insert it into the same hole to undo this half part of the stitch. And then I can complete the stitch as it's intended to be. So that is how you undo cross stitch if you ever make a mistake and you're in a relatively good spot in which to correct it. There's only so much that you can do that, in a way not dissimilar to there's only so many times that you can unravel and reuse yarn before you have to either retwist it or abandon ship and use it for stuffing, just because the rubbing as it goes through the fabric and as it's pulled taut. I'll look it up later in the dictionary. To get it tight like that, the more frequently you have to take it out and the more it rubs back and forth, the more damage happens to the fibers. And eventually, over time, it will degrade beyond the point of usefulness. You can actually see this happening in real time with the very ends. Where is it? There we go. Where it's already less strong, you see it starting to fray and kind of flake off. So thread is not endlessly reusable. So ideally you don't want it to be somewhere you don't want it to be. You want to be generally much more careful with your placement. Why are you perched over him like a vulture? My strange little butterfly. The way my papillon has perched himself, he looks like he's attending the Shelties' wake. The only downside of working with the black Ada, if you didn't know, Ada is the name of the fabric. The only downside of working with the black Ada is you need really good lighting in order to be able to see the intersection of the fibers that make up the little holes that you're going through for cross stitch. It's probably the truest test I will ever have if I ever start to need reading glasses. But that day is not today. Of course, anytime you have a fault in the fabric where the fibers don't line up correctly, then that can get real confusing real fast. Okay, I almost have ready to turn my chart over. Okay. So right now on the chart, we are right here. So let's see. Okay, so it looks like it's those two continue up. That there now. In the earlier videos of me working on this one, I was trying out using something called a grime guard, which you use to keep the fabric on the outside clean. And I do think it functions for that purpose. The problem was that with the amount of fabric that is on the edges of this, yes, that is the middle. Because, yeah, my middle is right over here. It's actually offset slightly. But with the amount of excess fabric that's around the hoop, it made it really bulky and kind of weird to hold on to. So I think if you were working with something where your Ada was much closer in cut to the hoop itself, that would work much better. As it is, I am just trying not to put this down somewhere where it is likely to get dirty. At some point I will, when I get a little closer out to one of the edges, I will release the hoop and actually move it out so I can work on the outer edge before going around. That way I can kind of follow the color a little bit more. But for now, the color is decently fitting inside of the hoop working space, so. You don't want to keep the hoop in one spot for too long because then it does crease the fabric, but you also don't want to be moving it around too much because that does get kind of tedious, especially as more area gets worked, because then stuffing it onto and off of the hoop can actually be hard on those stitches for the same reason that pulling it through the fabric multiple times is also hard on the stitches. Is that what I wanted to do? Yes, it is. Okay. I am not crazy. But I shall definitely have to remember for next year that December is a very rough time to try to do recording because of everything going on. And apparently, the early part of garden season is also a very rough part to do recording on. But that will get better over time. My process is getting streamlined. And over the course of this year and next year, as my perennial beds get more and more established, then there will actually be less and less to do. Because I did start some of those perennial seeds inside, and if they're out there already and hopefully come back next year, then I don't have to start those at all. Which will actually work out to basically an entire tray that I would not have to start. But then again, if I want to do more annuals, that is a question. Decisions. Yeah, we'll see what we get done this year. I am happy with working through the process. I am excited for the end result, but I will enjoy the process as I go along to get there. Excuse me. I should see if my little fan here is charged up. Though then again, I don't know if I'll have to see how loud it is. My crafting corner is not actually close to any of the air vents that are currently putting out air-conditioned air. We have a fan that is within my line of sight, but I think I might need to turn it up because I'm not really feeling much from it. It also doesn't help that my Shetland sheepdog likes to lay in front of the fan. Sometimes he lays down in such a way that he is on top of the vent that is pumping out the air-conditioned air and in front of the fan as well, which is quite impressive. But I suppose if I had a fur coat the size of the one that he has, I would be inclined to do such a thing too. So I can't really fault him on that one. But I have a little recharging fan that is over here that I made good use of last year. I haven't really used it all winter because it hasn't been hot. But I should pull it out. If nothing else, probably might need a charge before it can be used again. I actually got a couple more fans for my seed setup as well. Because the seedlings need to harden up a little bit, and movement of air is one of that they'll get quite shocked by being put in the sun if they've just been under grow lights, but I found that the movement of air tends to be kind of hard on them. So I have a little fan that I will turn on for them, gradually increasing both the strength of the fan as well as the time that it is on, so that the plant's stems have some stimulation to toughen up a little bit, so that if they go outside and it happens to be windy, they don't all just faint in spectacular fashion. But I have my seed starting setup is made up of 3 shelves, so remembering to get to it, especially when it's on for because my little fan can be on for 2, 4, or 6 hours, and obviously I can't be moving the fan around while I'm asleep. So in order to actually get the fan onto all of them during a day at that larger time period. Bug season. Yeah, 2 bug. Did I get it? I don't know if I got it. Oh well. They will be dealt with. I will deploy a couple more sticky traps. I haven't had to use one in a while because of the other thing that I will do, which is water the plants that are indoors and have indoor dirt. Oh. See, I talked about that fraying. That's one of the downsides of working with very long thread. Okay, from what point is this? 3. But the most effective thing I have found to deal with things like fungus gnats, at least, which are those very little black bugs that you sometimes get with indoor plants, they feed on fungus in the soil, hence the fungus gnat's name. The most effective thing I've found to control them is actually to soak part of a mosquito dunk in water and then to use that to water the plants. Plants are unaffected by it, but it does seem to kill the larvae of the fungus gnats. Fungus gnats do not actually harm plants. They just eat the fungus inside the soil, but they can be kind of annoying when they're flying around. They are not the same as fruit flies. So I don't know if that little bug that I just killed had come from outside, or if it had been in an egg that was dormant in one of the last Jiffy pots that I used this year with my seed starting. So, either way, doing the watering with the mosquito dunk in it will take care of the problem so I don't get a established colony in the house again. It's actually kind of the first time I've seen them in this, within this last week. I didn't actually have a problem with them at all during the earlier time of my seed starting. It wasn't until I did these at the very end of my seed starting where I used some of the old peat pots that I had. I'm phasing them out of my system. I found that I just prefer to use seed starting mix in plant cells as opposed to using the little, like the Jiffy pots or other peat pot things like that. But this is not the motivation for why I stopped using them, but it definitely is a factor. I'm almost done this thread and I need to make a decision because this color will actually continue over here. Now that could be a good lead in to moving the hoop over here. Just have to decide whether I want to do that or not, because the downside of taking off with just one color in that way is that if I make an error in that color, I will not know about it until I follow it up with another color. So I might, there's kind of two colors that are on either side of it. I might do those and then continue all three, just so I can kind of check them off against each other. Yeah, I think that is what I will do. This is the kind of commentary you don't get if I've got my little microphone on. Though the microphone does make recording, generally speaking, easier. I'm able to do this way because the heat and activity of the day has worn out both of the children and the husband, so they are all elsewhere in the house sleeping. Oh, I better go put the garbage out, because that's going to be picked up tomorrow morning, and they always pick up really, really early. And our garbage only gets picked up every other week, so we don't really want to miss it, especially not when it's hot outside. I'll do that after I'm done recording this, which is conveniently now. There we go. That is the usefulness of the needle minder. Okay. I think this will actually be it for me for tonight, but I will still see you tomorrow for another video. Bye-bye.